Good job. Do you mind turning off the front lights for me? That one right there, yeah. Thank you very much. Okay. Before we start, I actually want you to see this, okay? Vehicle finance is probably the booklet that I spend the most time on developing. So go to the front cover, put your finger, keep it on 47, of course. But we talked about buying a brand new vehicle. We talked about depreciation and residual value. We talked about buying a used vehicle, and there we had to decide used private. You have formulas for that. We did that. We talked about leasing. We talked about financing, right? Monthly payments, interest. We're going to talk about this today. But overall, we've talked about it. We haven't talked about insurance yet. Operating costs is very easy. It's just like, what does it take to run a vehicle? Some of the maintenance items you need to know. And if time allows, we're going to talk hybrid and electric vehicles. If time allows, right? Like I'm still, I want to make sure everything else is covered, because this is not what the province doesn't necessarily ask for this, but it's coming, right? It's only a matter of time till they start asking for that. So let's go back to 47 now, just so you can see that we're almost done the unit, right? The thing is, there's so much to know that I will mix stuff up. I'll give you some worksheets here and there. It's like, hey, some leasing, some financing. So you get to practice and get ready, wrap your head around how to kind of narrow it down, because there's so much to know, right? Okay, so we already talked about that leasing is really an alternative to purchasing a vehicle outright, a new vehicle that is. When you're done with the lease, you can just return it and walk away. Obviously, that would mean you didn't damage it, right? You lease a new vehicle, so you bring yours back and then lease a new one. Or you purchase it, right? Like the one you were leasing, you can purchase it at whatever was determined at the time of signing the contract. So this is just, I won't necessarily ask this, but I want you to know that. Here, advantages and disadvantages. So this is a little bit more in depth. I will give you some bullet points on page 48. But one of the biggest advantages of leasing is that the monthly payments are less than financing. So this is a good one to use when you say, hey, tell your friend, or try to convince your friend that leasing is better than financing. This would be your biggest pitch, right? This would be your biggest reason. It's like, hey, payments are a lot lower. You have more money left over for other things, right? Next, the second point, I won't really highlight anything, but it says when you lease, you can change vehicles every couple of years, whatever the term is, without worrying about the trade-in value. Like if you were to buy and then get a new one, you always have to negotiate, what is my old one worth and how much, right? How much are you going to give me? And at leasing, you don't need to worry about that, right? You don't have to worry about trade-in when you lease, right? This is compared to financing. When you lease new cars, that's the third bullet, you always drive a relatively new, reliable, repair-free vehicle. That's all I'm going to say there for that one. Disadvantages of leasing. Watch this. People tend to lease a more expensive car than they should because of the perceived cheaper monthly payment, right? Without realizing that the more expensive the vehicle, the more expensive the repair and maintenance. I'm not going to highlight anything there. This is worth highlighting. Continuous vehicle leasing promotes something that is called perpetual payment phenomenon. And what that means is your monthly payments go on indefinitely, forever. Okay. There is a kilometer restriction. Watch that, highlight that, kilometer restriction. That's a big disadvantage of leasing. And there's something that we call ambiguous wear and tear. And the word ambiguous means they're not quite specific as to what would be considered wear and tear, right? Obviously, the seat will wear out a little bit. Would that be just a normal wear and tear, or would they charge you extra for that, you know, sign of wear on the seats, let's say? Conditions that could prove to be costly at the end of the lease. Most vehicles are built so well that in many cases, lessees may want to exercise the buyback, but the buyback may be too high. That's worth highlighting. Like you might want to buy it, but you realize, oof, this is a lot of money. My payments will actually go up. And last but not least, very difficult and expensive to get out of a lease, okay, before the term. It's just like your cell phone contract. Some of you know what I'm talking about. There's a penalty for getting out of it, right? You can't just go to a different provider because you need to fulfill your basically lease. You're leasing a phone, basically. Sometimes nowadays it's right, bring it back or you own it, right? So there's different prices that they have on it. When it's bringing it back, that would be basically a lease. Same idea. All right. So let's go to page 48 and just put some of these things down a bit more concise. Because remember, you might be reviewing this for an exam, and you want to have things that are easily accessible. So go to page 48. I'm going to strongly encourage you to keep your booklets in a safe place. Don't chuck them. Some students just throw them at home in their rooms, right? And then it's review time and you don't have your booklet, right? You want to keep your booklet right till the end. After the exam, do whatever you want with it. Okay, let's go for advantages. This one is specifically a good one when you're trying to compare to buying the car. There are lower monthly payments, right? Compared to financing. A similar car. And I hope you would know how to explain that. Let me just zoom in a little bit. Because when you're leasing, you're not financing the entire value, right? I'll put that explanation. Not financing entire value, right? That is the main reason why the payments are lower. If you're leasing continuously, it's safer, since new vehicles have latest safety features. I'm just going to shorten it like that. They have latest safety features. So you would not use this one if buying a new car, right? Because the new car would be just as safe. So this one would be as opposed to buying a used car, maybe, right? Car is more reliable since a new car comes with warranty. You could use the same argument for lower maintenance costs. And that would be warranty again. So you can use warranty for being reliable, because if a product has a warranty, it usually means that it will do well. That's why they're willing to offer a warranty. That's it for advantages. There are more, but let's just keep it at that. Disadvantages. The biggest disadvantage is mileage restriction. Okay. You are charged extra for driving above limit. There's a certain mileage limit, and if you go over it, you get charged more. Difficult and expensive to get out of lease before maturity. You can use the words before the end of the term or before the end of the lease. It's up to you. Use your own words if you're not sure. If you look in Kijiji, sometimes there's people offering you to take over their lease. Let's say I have a year left on my lease, you want to take it over, and then you just have a year. So sometimes it's okay. You don't own it. You never own the car. And that causes the following issues. Those folks that like to customize their cars, you can't do that. You can't customize it or modify it, right? You can't use it as collateral. Can't use it as collateral for the loan. Bank wouldn't look at it as, oh, we can borrow you money because you've got a car that we could take if should you not pay your loan, right? That's it. I'm going to leave it at that. So I think it's important to understand these. So if I ask you to explain, you're able to explain, not just state, right? All right. And now I'm going to ask you to spend a couple of minutes. You should have already done so, but page 52 and 51, I already give you the answers on Friday. Just going to make sure people get to copy this. But go to page 52 and 51. If you're done page 52 already, go to 51 and work through those. I'm going to give you a little bit of time. Keeping in mind, though, I want to tell you this, right? That everything in the leasing section, the key to the entire thing has been posted. So including this worksheet that follows. So for the test or quiz, right? If you want to review some leasing, some buying used, some buying new, you work through these questions and you go online and you'll see these keys completely worked out. So for now, page 52, if you're done page 52 already, go to page 51 and do one of those two examples, if not both, and then we'll continue in a bit. So this is your last go at it. Some of you are doing great and you're just working away. So if you feel like you got this, keep working. I will just work through at least one more example here. That way you have enough to go by. Okay? Just remember, we're filling this in for later as well, not just for this test. So we have, obviously we're talking lease. MSRP is right there. It's a 48-month lease. We pay $375 a month. There's a down payment. There's a residual value. I'm going to use a different highlighter. That's when you buy it, right? That's going to come in handy when you want to purchase it. And then the next line tells you, can you just make sure you make a note of it? It says it gives you a mileage restriction, but watch this. It says what? Per year. Okay, so that is the one. Let's contrast this. Where is this going to be different? Well, if you go to page 51 with me for 1 second here, see how it says the lease says you can drive this much? That's just a fixed amount. So that's the number you go by, right? But here, the per year throws you off a little bit, right? So that means that if it's a 4-year lease, way up here, it's a 4-year lease, right? So I'm going to get my limit of 4 years times 20,000 kilometers. So that's an 80,000 kilometer limit. And I'm going to put a wave under that. Okay, so the per year, you got to watch out. Got to be careful there. So the mileage would be over. I'm going to figure out how much I'm over by. From what I'm seeing, you're doing this very well. Okay, I'm not too worried about this. So this is how many kilometers you're over. So the mileage is simply taking those kilometers. You multiply it, in this case, by 0.11. And because everything is multiplying, you can just slap on the 1.12 at the end, okay? So make sure if it's all multiplying, you can do it in one shot. If this is adding, you need to put brackets and do that first, okay? So this amounts to 1521.52, which is what I gave you, right? Watch out for before and after taxes. If it had been before taxes, you just omit, just don't do the times 1.12, all right? So just watch out for that. The cost of the lease, total lease, I'm going to call this. I'm going to take my down payment, which is $5,000. This bracket is going to take care of all payments, okay? So 375 times, there are 48 of these. And I'm not going to forget about taxes. Plus, I'm going to take this number and add it. Okay? This is coming with me and tagging along. This is already taxed, correct? This is already taxed. The total payments I am taxing, and this one doesn't get any taxes on it, right? So it's 5,000 plus 20,160 if you do this all in one shot, and the 1521.52. At this point, if I add that all up, it's already including all applicable taxes. No taxing on top of this, okay? That would be double taxing. Okay, so there's that number that I gave you. The residual value after tax, no problem. I just take 65%. That's the pink one I highlighted here. 65% of MSRP. I'm going to figure out that, just that, and that's 22,750. And then I'm going to add taxes to it. And that gives you 25,480, just like that. Okay. And now it says, what's the whole lease, including the purchase? So really just add up these two here. 26,681, 52 plus 25,480. Just read carefully. Read carefully. What am I asking? These steps are not always all going to be part of a question. It could be that all you have is mileage. Right? It could be that question is simply talking, hey, what's the mileage in this case? What's the lease? Just the lease. That'd be down payment, payments, and potentially mileage. So watch out for that. I'm just going to pause this here. I'm just going to tell you